will donate, it's not a lot, but I'll donate $100 to your football team if you lose. If you give the other team everything and you lose, I'll donate $100 to your football team personally. Not 8-Man Extreme, personally. James Shannon, I will give you $100 towards your football team. But to know that that's the last time, unless you know you're going to nationals 100%, to know that that is the last time you will ever put on a pair of football shoulder pads and a football helmet for that high school, that is the most gut-wrenching, heart-wrenching thing ever. Hey everyone, welcome into Extreme Talk. My name is James Shannon, and I want to thank you for listening and participating. Thank you for checking us out here on YouTube, and hopefully you go check out some of our other shows and our game broadcasts that we were able to do last year. Of course, you've got Extreme Radio every Sunday, 4 p.m., and it's a great place. Obviously, it's a live show, but it's a great place to get caught up on all the news and the stories from around 8-Man football, everything that's been going on. Of course, the last couple of weeks, been trying to get everyone up to speed on everything that's happened over the offseason. And, of course, once the season starts, Spencer and Isaiah and the guys will start recapping games. They'll start previewing games. And, of course, I'll come on for 10 or 15 minutes and talk about issues, let the guys ask my opinion about different topics. And I'll give my thoughts on games as well. And you'll also be able to get that right here on Extreme Talk. So, episode number 2 coming out. I'm excited about this. Like I said last week, this is something I wanted to do for a while, and I haven't been able to. And so here it is. Now, later on in the show, I'm going to put a couple schools on blast. Because there's something that needs to be addressed, that I feel that needs to be addressed, and so I'm going to address it. But I said here on Extreme Talk, you're going to get my unbridled, unfiltered opinion about topics, and a topic I wanted to discuss today is the practice that some coaches have, and I get it, that coaches are busy. A lot of coaches have lives outside of football and coaching. I get that. But this practice that some coaches have, that we're not going to share our stats, we're barely going to give you a roster if we have to. We're not going to give you film. We're not going to give you anything. Because we're just going to be, we're going to, and if we give you a roster, it's not going to have the correct numbers or the correct weight or height. And we're going to try to get every advantage we can get. Now, granted, I've never been a head coach. Don't know if I ever will be a head coach. But to me, I know you're trying to get a competitive advantage. But that is one of the most childish things that you can do, is to be so secretive with your information. Listen. Here's how your football team should go. And if you don't think your team is like this, then you're going to be in trouble. And you know what? To some extent, I don't blame you for not giving all your information away. You ought to be able to give everyone, every stat, every minute of film, every second of film, an accurate roster. Give all 3 of those things to a team, and then go play them the next week and spank them. If you can do that, you got to have success. You got a successful team. People think you have to be successful by being sneaky and surprising and quiet about everything. No, that's just going to make people not like you any more than they might already not or like you. It's crazy. It's something that needs to stop. And if I'm calling you out, if you're one of these coaches who thinks by hiding information that you're going to get an edge up on somebody. Nope, home slice. Not going to cut it. Not going to work. It's ridiculous, and it needs to stop. Because all you're doing is, and you know what? If you put those stats and everything out after the season so that your kids can use them, that's fine. And I hope you're keeping track of stats. I hope you have a statistician. If you don't, or if you don't at least go back and watch the film and try to write stats down, if you don't have enough care and enough thoughtfulness for your players that you're going to help them out in that way, I'm just going to be honest. You're a sad excuse for a coach. I know coaches have things going on in their personal lives outside of football, and I get it. But you have to do everything you can to help your kids. And you know what? If you want to put your stats, don't even put your stats on Max Preps. If you put your stats on a huddle or a crossover or something like that, do that. That's fine. Give your kids the stats. Give your kids film. Help your kids get into a college. How about that for a change? There have been way too many players I've talked to. Way too many. That have said, yeah, my coach didn't help me with film. He still isn't giving me film. I don't know my stats. You know, he says he's going to help me, but he doesn't really help me. That really, really rubs me the wrong way. Because if you're a coach, you ought to be busting your rear end. If you have a kid who wants to go play college football, you can be busting your rear end to help that kid get into college. I'm just saying. That's the truth. But don't be thinking that you're going to get a dub just because you didn't tell Joe Blow that John Smith was 54 and not 58. You're insane if you think that's the case. So coaches, share your information. Share your info. Be open. And you know what? Be the bigger man. Be open and then go spank somebody. Go beat somebody after giving them an accurate roster, all your stats, and all your film. I dare you. I'm laying the gauntlet down. I'm throwing the challenge out there. If a coach does that this season, if a coach gives another team all three things, not film of another team, give them film of yourself. And I know coaches swap film, so you're obviously going to see film of yourself, unless you decide to give them film of two other teams playing that you happen to acquire from someone else. But if a coach gives an accurate roster, accurate statistics, and accurate film of his team to another coach and loses, I'm going to say it right now. I will donate. I know it's not a whole lot, but you know what? I am so confident that if a team does that, they should be able to beat the other team. I will donate. It's not a lot, but I'll donate $100 to your football team. If you lose. If you give the other team everything and you lose, I'll donate $100 to your football team personally. Not 8-Man Extreme, personally. James Shannon, I will give you $100 towards your football team. I know it's not going to be a lot. I'll buy you some Gatorades. Maybe a practice jersey. Maybe a pair of pants, a pair of cleats. So there you go. I mean, that's my take on it. It's from a genuine place where I have seen this happen to too many kids. I had coaches who cared. And I've seen this happen to way too many kids for it to be acceptable. So, there you go. That's my thoughts on it. There's something I want to talk about, and I'm kind of dead square in the middle of it because I played football and graduated from one of the schools, and I've known people from the other school for, there's people I've known for 8-9 years, and I currently go to the church that's associated with the other school. And I'm talking about the rivalry between Christian Community School and South Haven Christian. And this topic is personal for me because I know people on both sides, and I respect people on both sides. But it's gone way too far. They didn't play each other for several years. They did play each other, and they didn't play each other. They weren't playing each other when I came through Christian Community. And I don't think they actually played each other until, gosh, I want to say 2014. Yeah, 2014 they played the Jamboree. I think 14 and 15 they played the Jamboree. Or maybe 14 and 15 they played Jamboree. 15 is when South Haven went undefeated, so they beat CCS at CCS. 2016 they played, and then last year they played. Now the game was a little lopsided, and Christian Community won in 2016, obviously because South Haven was having a down year. In 2015, South Haven went undefeated, so they beat CCS 24-0 at home. And then last year, it was kind of a blowout for CCS. But as South Haven started going along, they beat everyone else. They were 6-1. And people underestimated them a little bit going into the postseason, myself included. I questioned whether or not a team who beat, and this is not to down these teams, but whether or not a team who beat Hendersonville, Madisonville, Bowling Green, which Bowling Green was good, give them their dues. Lighthouse, okay. Riverside had a down year. I wondered, and they played Madisonville twice, by the way. But I wondered if a team who had not beat a team with a winning record, how they would do in the playoffs against the Webb school, who South Haven Christian ended up playing in the playoffs. And, of course, they handled Webb, and that was fine. Great game. Everyone kind of said, well, Webb didn't really do what everyone thought they would, and they had a bad game, and South Haven had a good game. So they underestimated them. And then Christian Community had the game that they did with Franklin Christian. And that was a fantastic game. I was there. I was the play-by-play guy. It was cold. It was rainy. It was just nasty. And it was a back-and-forth game. It came down to a last-second field goal try with time expiring that didn't work. And, guys on both sides were crying and hugging each other because some of them knew each other from the All-Star game the year before and from playing each other earlier on in the year. And it was just a fantastic ball game. Well, coming out of that ball game, the CCS coach, Jordan Flanders, made a statement that he thought he had seen the championship game that night. Or that he thought they had played the championship. Now, while you're going to jump and take South Haven's side, keep this in mind. CCS had already spanked South Haven early on in the year. I mean, it was bad. So, Christian Community is going into the championship game, and I'm not making excuses for them, going into the championship to play someone they've already spanked earlier in the season. And that really ruffled some South Haven feathers. I know that the Patriots don't really have feathers, but it rubbed them the wrong way. And I made the error last year of claiming that I, too, thought I had seen the championship game between CCS and FCA. I thought that should be the championship. I was not giving South Haven their due. Again, they didn't beat a team with a winning record last year. So, they swept their division. And they beat a team twice from, out of state who didn't win a game in 2 years. Still a great team with good players, but they just couldn't get it done. And South Haven beat that team twice last year. They beat the people who they did. They didn't beat a team with a winning record. So if you stack everything up, CCS had not lost a game. CCS was unbeaten going into the championship. So you stack all of that up, and you look at that. You tell me, if you could not tell me standing there that day, unless you were from South Haven, you could not tell me that day that I was wrong or that you thought I was wrong. Everyone was picking CCS. South Haven was the underdog going into that game. I don't care who you are. I don't care. They were the underdog, plain and simple. And that bothered South Haven, as it should. It should bother a good football team when you're the underdog. This is sports. If you're going to be competitive, you should want to be the underdog. You should want to be the favorite. You should want to be the people that people are going to bet on you. When they say, yeah, there's 2-to-1 odds or 5-to-1 odds, you should want to be that person. You should. I'm just saying. That's how you should be in life. You should not be the guy in life who wants to be an underdog. You should always want to be victorious and always want to be the favorite and the guy that people go to. That's just my philosophy. That's some life lessons from James Shannon, free. You don't have to pay for them. You don't have to do anything. There you go. But, and I'm going to point out I'm going to clarify this. I take fault. I find fault and I find blame with both sides. And I'll get to that. CCS did not go into the championship game, in my opinion. There were players and people with the team who went into that championship game and did not take South Haven seriously. They didn't. I'm just going to put it out there. Now, that may rub some people the wrong way, and I may never be allowed back to my alma mater again, but it's the truth. From my perspective and everything I've heard from several people and about several people, they did not take South Haven seriously. And you cannot do that when you're a football team. You can't. It's like Casey Jorgensen said last week on the podcast. I asked him, how did you treat teams that you knew you would win? He said, you don't know you're going to beat anybody. He goes, the motto is respect all, fear none. So just because you're looking across the field at a team, you don't have to fear what they have. You don't have to be scared of what they have or have second thoughts. But you sure as heck better respect them. If you can't respect them for being a football team, you respect them for being people. And you respect them for the work that they've put in. Even though they've played teams who don't have a winning record, they're still a football team. They still go out and practice 2 hours every day, just like you. They put on pads and hit just like you. So while you're fighting for respect with other people, our big thing is let's get 8-man on the same level as 11-man. Let's get it some respect. Well, guess what? Within 8-man football, there needs to be respect. You need to respect the team lining up across from you every single week. No exceptions. At all. I don't care. I don't care who it is. Again, you do not fear them. But you better respect the crap out of them. I don't know, some people were going to say, oh, you said crap on your podcast. Sorry. There, I said it twice. So they play the championship game. And just a fantastic game. Back and forth. Battle. Comes down to the last drive. South Haven has a 61-58 lead. Comes down to the last drive. CCS trying to drive down the field. They are riddled with injuries. Now, I've heard that there were CCS players, again, throughout this podcast, with these players, I'm not going to call them out. That's not what I'm in the business of. Now, if I talk to them individually, if I talk to players on either side individually, and I think they did something to mess up, I'll call them out on it to their face. but I'm not going to do it behind a microphone and a computer. I'm not going to name names from here where I'm at. I'll tell you to your face. I have that kind of guts. But there were players who stayed out late the night before and did not take the game seriously. And that bugs me. It would bug me if it's any team. But especially because it's supposed to be people representing my alma mater. That takes it to a whole new level of just being irked, for lack of a better term. So near the end of the championship game, they're driving down, several players injured, and you had Colton Rollins, who I've known, 7 years. I played ball with his brother in 2011. His oldest brother was a senior when I was a senior. We played ball together. So I've known him for 7 years. My wife grew up going to that church. She's known that family for years. So very close friend of ours. And he's trying to play quarterback, and he fumbles the ball. South Haven recovers. Ball game's over. I think South Haven maybe had to take a couple knees or something. And to CCS's credit, they were very poised about how they handled the victory formation for South Haven. I will give them that. But it got ridiculous. It got stupid. Because after the game, I heard from a couple people that while CCS players were on the sidelines crying, seniors that in their eyes, before they found out about going to nationals, that was their last game ever. I know what that feels like. I lost the state championship game my senior year. I wasn't a huge contributor. I was a backup. But to know that that's the last time, unless you know you're going to nationals 100%, to know that that is the last time you will ever put on a pair of football shoulder pads and a football helmet for that high school, that is the most gut-wrenching, heart-wrenching thing ever. And I hope, and I wish that people that criticize, the people who act like that, the people who are crying about their championship, if you criticize that and you make fun of that and you make a joke of it, I wish you could feel what they're feeling. But I heard reports that while seniors were on the field, whether they're kneeling or sitting or crying, whatever they're doing, there were parents from South Haven coming over and taking pictures of the players crying. Now, you can dispute that if you want to. That's fine. But the fact that there's even a chance that you could get accused of that is such baloney on such a high level that you ought to be ashamed of yourself as any kind of an adult. It is shameful, and especially if you call yourself a Christian. That is stooping way too low. But to have that happen, and then reportedly after that, there was an Instagram account created, a burner account, because someone didn't have the cojones to actually put their name behind it. Someone posted a picture of a senior and was and was making fun of him, was poking fun that he lost the championship. And that burns me to a whole new level. Because it's one thing to do it to someone's face and to laugh and mock someone to their face, but to go create a burner social media account, it's a big problem we have now, is burner social media accounts. But to go make one, if you are a grown adult, to criticize a bunch of high school seniors, that's low. And that's ridiculous, and that's baloney. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. If you're listening and you did that, you need to be ashamed of yourself. But going forward from that, of course, Christian Community decided to go to the national championship. South Haven Christian decided to go on to basketball season. So CCS went on and won nationals. And the whole time they're posting national championship pictures and the national championship trophy. You got people from the South Haven Christian School Athletics official Instagram still posting pictures of their trophy, still touting it, still just being complete jerks of themselves and making fools of themselves. And I saw it over and over and over again, and it made me sick. It made me embarrassed to be associated with that school. I don't know who runs the Instagram. I'm not going to dig. I'm not going to go there. If you run that Instagram, you know who you are. And if you want to catch up with me and we'll talk about this, that's fine. But the way they acted, the way that South Haven, I'm going to say South Haven people, not everyone there. There are some very, very classy individuals. That head coach, Jason Zimmerman, is a classy man. Jordan Flanders from Christian Community is a classy man. But there are other people from both schools, especially South Haven, who just, they need to get taken to the woodshed. I'm just going to say it. They need to get taken to the woodshed because of their actions. Because of the things they said during the championship game. Things they called players. Because of things that they did after the championship game. How they acted on social media. It's ridiculous. It is purely disgusting. And it has continued throughout the offseason. Anytime any kind of 6158 came up, there was a South Haven Instagram posting something about it. And it's just, it's ridiculous to a whole new level. I'm not just excusing Christian Community. And I'm going to get to this in a second. But if you can't let this go, I was really surprised that nothing happened during basketball season. Nothing. I was very, very shocked. They played each other twice in basketball. Nothing happened. But throughout the whole offseason, you just breed this and fester this. And you put it in your kids' mind. The seniors who have graduated, they don't care. They really don't. They don't give a care. Most of them. Now, there's a couple. We did the whole ask a question thing a couple weeks ago when Instagram first came out with it. And I'm going to pull this up because I want to read some of the quote-unquote, I say questions, they weren't questions. They were questions, but they were trashy questions. They were trailer park questions. Here's one. How do you win nationals if you can't win state? From a current South Haven Christian School player. How do you win nationals if you can't win state? Well, here's your answer. It's not claiming to be the best in the nation. It's claiming to be the best at a tournament that had teams from all over the nation. If you really want to get facetious about it. So that caused retaliation. How does a coach let a player who was caught stealing and charged still play in the game? We responded, good question. You should contact that coach and player, though. From a CCS player. What will it, let's see. Why is South Haven such garbage? Well, it depends on if your definition of garbage is MTAC state champions. In that case, we would hate to know your definition of great or good. Such full-on levels of crud and crap that has no place in 8-man football. Those 3 messages made me sick to my stomach. 2 of them from graduated CCS players, and 1 of them from a current South Haven player. And that's not the first time that issues like this have come up, where they're trashing each other. And I'm sick of it. Me personally, coming from one school and playing for that school and going to church and knowing people from the other school and being associated with it, I am the perfect person to address this issue. It stops, and it stops now. This is baloney. I am so sick of seeing that type of garbage out in public. If you've got a problem with a player from CCS, or you got a problem with a player from South Haven, hit that player up on social media, or find someone that knows them. Go up to them face to face and work out your problems. I'm scared of CCS and South Haven playing each other in the Jamboree. I'm scared to see them play each other this year. I would not be surprised if there are personal fouls, at least to start out the game. Because you're going to have someone retaliating from both sides, and it's going to go back and forth. Now the coaches are going to do their darnest to keep it in check. And they're going to try to keep it under control. And I applaud them for that. I know they're going to do a great job of it. But if you are 2 Christian schools trying to set a good Christian example, and you can't have a friendly rivalry with each other without stooping to the level of your lowest inner city schools. I'm all for rivalries. I love rivalries. Franklin, the Battle of Franklin, when we had the Battle of Kentucky, Webb and Sewanee, CCS Lighthouse, Riverside Bowling Green. I mean, you name the rivalry. I love the rivalry. I live for rivalry week. Rivalry week. I live for that. But when a rivalry gets to this point, and it gets so ridiculous that people are making themselves look like idiots. Guess what? If you ask those questions on Instagram, nobody knows. We're not going to call you out. Several people asked us. We're not going to call you out. But no, from us to you, and from me personally to you, you need to get your act together. Because you are embarrassing yourself. You're embarrassing your school. You're embarrassing your family. And most importantly, if you call yourself a Christian, you're embarrassing your Lord Jesus Christ by acting the way you are. It is a game. It is football. It will die. You might not play this next year. You might not play for the rest of your life. How are you going to let something like this define who you are and how you act? You can't let it do that. I was part of one of the biggest rivalries back in the day. Christian Community Franklin Classical. Guess what? It never got to this level. Never, ever, ever. Now, social media was not what it was. But it never got to this level. Our head coaches didn't like each other. Kind of, I think. Never, ever got to this level. Franklin Christian, Franklin Classical. Never got to this level that I'm aware of. Webb and Sewanee, that's a little bit of a rougher rivalry. A little bit rough. Some crazy things said between the two. I'm going to let that go. But you claim to be 2 Christian schools 20 minutes apart in the same county, down the same highway, with the same people that know each other. People going back and forth. Get your act together. And I promise if there's an incident this year, I'm putting whoever it is on blast. I'm calling it right now. If there is an incident at the Jamboree or the games, I'm putting whoever it is on blast. I don't care. No holds barred. I'm giving you one shot right now. Because guess what? I will come up to you personally, and I will confront you. I don't care what side you're on. If you're from CCS, guess what? I love the Colts. I love the alma mater. I love May Flanders Field. I love that campus. I would do anything for that team. But guess what? I'm gonna call you out to your face, and I'm gonna come up to you. And if you're from South Haven, I love that church. I love that school. I love people there. But I will come to you face to face, and we will talk. Because I am sick of the two places, the two schools that mean the most in my life, bickering over something ridiculous. There was that Instagram question earlier about how does a coach let a player who was caught in charge for stealing let them play. Leave it alone. Drop it. If it didn't happen, guess what? You're going to be charged with spreading a rumor or starting a rumor. And shame on the person who let that information leak. And guess what? If it is true, and if this certain person who is alleged to have done this stuff, and South Haven swears up and down they didn't do it, and they swear they don't know anything about it. But if this person did what everyone's accusing him of, how is it any of your flipping business? It's not. Mind your own business. Do your own thing. Stay in your lane. Let other people handle their lives, and don't let one mistake define who they are.
At this time, I'd like to welcome my special guests. They are two of the greatest athletes in the history of the Webb School, and I could say that because I didn't play football there. I'm just kidding. I'm talking about Rio Russell, who was a senior in 2013, part of that undefeated Webb School class that won the state championship. And then I'm also talking to Wes Watson, who was the quarterback. He was a senior in 2016, and he led Webb School to the championship that year, and then ended up being co-champions under some crazy circumstances. So, guys, right off the bat, thank y'all so much for doing this and for talking.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no problem.
So tell us how you guys came to find Webb, and then how you started to play football there. Of course, Rio, I think you said you were there the first year they had football, and then Wes, I don't know, had they started football by the time you were there, or was that a little before your time?
When I first got there, they didn't have it, but and then when they had it, they only had a varsity team at first, so I managed until I could play. And then my 8th grade and 9th grade year, I played varsity.
Well, yeah, the first year I went there, I went as a sophomore, and that was the first year they started, and I actually wasn't going to play. But then I was like, whatever, I might as well try it, and it was fun.
Now, Rio, you told me before that you were more of a baseball guy. So, and you said you're now playing baseball after high school. Just kind of give us an update on that.
Yeah. So right out of high school, I went to Columbia State, which was a JUCO in Columbia, Tennessee. And then I transferred over to Broward, which is in Florida, and went there for the fall. And now I'm at Warner University because I got a full scholarship to play there.
Well, that's awesome. And Wes, of course, since you played, you went to, of course, UT and started going to school out there. And we follow, I don't know if it was, I don't know if we followed you or Evan first, but obviously all the crazy stuff that went down with the championship in 2016, my socks about dropped off because I saw something that I never thought I would see in a million years. And that was you and Evan arm in arm. So you got to tell us, how did that happen? And talk about how you guys first met, how you became friends, and just walk us through everything that happened, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I don't mind. I didn't really know him until I knew of him before he played, obviously, because we scouted him and stuff. And then when we got up to Knoxville, we ended up pledging the same fraternity. And then, well, I met him at orientation, and he came over to me, and we started talking, and I called him cheaters and stuff, and I mean, I guess that's how we became friends because we kind of got in an argument at orientation about it, and then we just became friends from there, and now we're pretty good friends. So it's kind of crazy that it happened that way because we definitely didn't like each other at first.
Who were some of the favorite rivals that you guys had? Because obviously at different times you guys had different rivals. But who were some of the favorite rivals that you guys enjoyed playing?
I know the main one was what's it called? St. Andrews. I think that's that school in Swanee.
The rivals I enjoyed playing, Lighthouse. I guess they weren't really rivals, but I just remember the playoff game my senior year, and St. Andrews Swanee was always fun to play.
Rio, of course, you were on that first team, and and then you entered your senior year going to the championship. Talk about the changes from that first year to the year you guys won, and how the school embraced football. Of course, not having football for a long time. So how did they embrace it as the years kind of went on? And how did it grow? How did the program grow?
Okay, well, so sophomore year for me was when it started, and well, it was so new because like coming from the Bahamas, I mean, I just watched football on TV, so I didn't really know too much about it. So, I mean, to start it off, it was like pretty fun. Like the school enjoyed it a lot. Like the games, even though we weren't like winning a lot, but the atmosphere was always there from the start. And then as it went on, like we got a lot more sponsorship from parents and stuff like that. So we had like nice gear and stuff. So it was fun to like play, and you wanted to be out there. And the coaches were fun too. And then senior year was the year like we went off and just won everything. So like most of all, it's like really enjoyable.
Now I enjoyed Coach Felberge, and obviously he moved on, and you got Coach Murphy this year. So I guess Wes, compare Coach Forrest, because you played for him. Compare Coach Forrest to Coach Felberge, and how their styles were different.
Coach Forrest he was a good coach. He was just more stubborn. Whenever I first started playing, he was just smash mouth. He just wanted to run the ball. And so clearly for my position, it wasn't the best, but we kind of transitioned.
And I don't mean to interrupt you, but in fairness, look who he had. He had Rio and Jack Anderson.
Yeah, that's true.
You got guys like that, you can run the football.
Yeah. Those years we definitely should have, but I think once we lost Rio, obviously, and Jack, it became a little different. We didn't really have, until we got Garth back, we didn't really have just a power back. And even when Garth was there, he wasn't just like a run-up-the-middle kind of player. And he was still kind of stuck on it, but then Coach Felberge took over. And I think what we could bring to a game and our game plan grew, because we could throw the ball, then we did triple option, had the field out.
So Wes, obviously, you had a kid behind you named Greg Kilpatrick, and he came to the All-Star game this last year, had a great senior year himself. But at any point, did you always want to play quarterback, or was there a temptation to kind of move to another position and maybe let him take over quarterback and kind of grow him up a little bit, or was there talk from the coaches about that, or how did that happen?
I was always going to be the quarterback, and so for high school for Webb, yes, I was going to be the quarterback for sure, because like you saw, we did spread and I ran the ball a lot, and I just kind of did a variety of things. But I was looking at playing in college, like my junior and senior year, I knew I was going to have to transition to a different position. So I guess there was a temptation to be like, I want to start training and getting better skills differently. But then, they kind of needed me there. And if I wanted to send film or tape to other schools, me playing quarterback, I ran the ball so much and I did so many things that it didn't really matter what position I played, I think. But Greg was he was good to have behind, and in practices and stuff, they definitely throw him in sometimes and give me a rest.
So obviously you guys have a great field there at the Webb School, and I'm trying to remember the name I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I've been there several times. And you guys have a great place to play. But did you guys have another place that you really enjoyed playing? I know Rio, you've played some teams that have kind of left or closed in the last few years, maybe an older team. But where was your favorite place to play?
I mean, besides home, the only field I would say that I enjoyed, and I'd say because senior year that we beat them really bad, and it's like our first game was at St. Andrews. Like that's the only other field that I'd say I like.
I really liked playing at Curry Ingram during the tournament. Their field was really nice. And then St. Andrews Sewanee, their college field was really nice too.
Yeah, I got to go there for the first time this past season. I went to the Webb Sewanee game, and it was just ridiculous. I mean, I always knew about the rivalry, but it's crazy.
There's definitely a big rivalry between us and SAS.
I don't know if I'd say big, just a little rivalry.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys knew anybody on other teams, but did you guys know anybody on other teams, or were there guys that y'all enjoyed playing maybe, or like when you knew they were coming up, you kind of got a little extra amped for them? And we'll start with Rio and then go to West.
The only person I can really remember was the SAS quarterback. I can't remember
Kendall?
his name. Yes.
Kendall.
He was like he was like huge. But I remember him like my first year, he like just killed us. And then I don't remember what we did junior year, but I was happy to beat them senior year. That was the only guy I could really remember. And I also remember the guy Casey, but not too well.
I'd say there's this big RCA quarterback. You probably know what I'm talking about. He was huge.
Gus Hill, I think.
Yeah, probably him.
And I know the game you're talking about. It was that 2015, like the bowl game kind of thing. Y'all played each other.
Yeah, and I remember trying to get ready to play them, and I guess some of the players just know each other through social media. But my senior year, like when FCA was coming up, we were both undefeated. Holcomb, I remember getting ready for him too.
Yeah, and I wish that one of the biggest regrets is that we didn't start doing the All-Star game sooner, because it seemed like, like you were able to get all y'all became friends really. And I was talking to Colton the other day, and he was just talking about how he got to be even better friends with some of the guys. But I also wish we had done it sooner, because we could have gotten guys like Rio and Casey and all those guys.
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely one of the highlights of playing football, meeting all the guys you're playing against and stuff.
So, Rio, I know you're probably not going to remember a name. You might remember a number, but what was the hardest you ever got hit?
I really don't remember a name or a number, to be honest. But I mean, I always tell the story, like anytime I talk about football, like I remember getting blindsided twice. It wasn't the same game, but I remember 2 different times just doing a backflip each time, and that's probably the hardest I ever got hit.
Now, I was talking to a kid named Colton Rollins last night, and Wes knows him. But yeah. He said when y'all played in 2013, he said he popped you in the shoulder, I think it was, and he knocked you out for like the first quarter and second quarter. And then he said he came back after halftime and straight torched us. Do you remember that?
I did that? Oh, he did that to me?
No, he said he did that to you, and then you came back in the second half.
Oh.
It would have been your senior year.
Wait, what team did he play for?
He played for Christian Community, CCS up in White House. He would have been. I think he was number 11, like a defensive end.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember that exactly, but I mean, he might be right. He probably remembers since he did it.
I don't remember it, but I'm not going to doubt that it happened.
Yeah.
Wes, what about you? Who was the hardest you ever got hit, and who hit you, if you remember?
I think it was a green team. I don't know what, but I remember it was.
Well, that narrowed it down to about 5 teams.
I don't know. It was home my senior year, and it was I punted the ball, and it was like really high, and I started running, and I realized I was going to. It was like one of those where I was going to be able to just hit him as soon as he touched the ball. So I was running full speed, and I got blindsided by some kid on their team, and I remember my mouthpiece came out, and I hit the ground. I don't even know what happened, and I watched it on film the next day, and they watched it like 100 times.
It wasn't. Was it Bowling Green?
It might. No, I'm trying to
Hendersonville.
Maybe it might have been them. I just remember I thought I was going to destroy this kid, and then I got blindsided and decleated.
That's crazy. The hardest hit I ever took was my senior year. We had gone up to Dayton, up to NACA Rio. You guys went up there in 2013 too.
Oh yeah.
But we went up there. We were playing a team out of Memphis called Macon Road Baptist, and their quarterback ran around a whole bunch, and he went to one sideline. I was chasing him, and he turned to go to the other way. And as soon as I turned, their center ear-holed me, and that was. I think I got a slight concussion on that, but that was the hardest I ever got hit. So what? Of course, you guys took losses throughout your career, like everyone does. But what was the most impactful loss that you guys suffered? And then also, what was the biggest win that you guys had?
The biggest loss. I'm trying to think.
Other than the championship.
Yeah, I think there were two. To end my junior year, or whenever we were in the MTAC Bowl, it was a close game at first with RCA, and then they just blew us out. I think personally, at least, that gave me some motivation for the next season. And then my senior year when FCA came up and we were both undefeated, and then we got blown out by them. I think that was like a wake-up call that we needed.
I think the game that I guess was Christian Community. That's they're yellow and blue, right?
Yeah.
Community. Yeah. I think it was my junior year. This is like a really, really like cold, miserable night, honestly. And I think just because it was cold, like I don't think I was running the ball the whole game, and like Coach Force like put me in for like I think maybe like play like in the fourth. And I just remember fumbling. I literally did not even feel the ball in my hands. I just remember fumbling, and I think we lost that game. I think that was like the most hurtful game I ever played.
It's actually crazy because that year, 2012, your junior year, I was doing the video stuff for CCS, and I remember that ball game because it was in the playoffs, and they knocked you out of the playoffs, and then they went on to beat Aaron Academy for in the championship.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
that was tough.
In the game. They were supposed to play in the championship the next week, and I think y'all ended up playing. Y'all played somebody, and then they had to move the championship game to like a Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So put somebody on blast. I asked what your favorite place to play, or maybe the best place to play. What was the worst field you guys played a game on? Is there one that sticks out?
Yeah, honestly, for me, I hated the field in Dayton. That field sucked. It was so hard.
It hurt so bad to fall on the ground there.
That place.
Talking about that
so
main
dry.
field?
Yeah, the main field next to the cabins and stuff.
Well, man, Wes, if I'd have known that, I might not have had the All-Star game played on that field. You should have told me that.
And it was so cold. I think that was because when you play in Dayton, it's either because you're playing for like national or you're playing tournaments later into the year, so it gets really cold by then. So the grass dries up and it hurts really bad to fall.
When you guys were playing teams throughout your career that you saw them on the schedule and you knew they weren't doing well, that maybe they had no wins or one win or maybe two wins, how did you guys approach those games? I'm always interested to hear about this because different people have different approaches to it. So how did y'all approach a team that maybe only had like 0 to 2 wins that you knew you were going to blow out and it was going to get ugly?
I honestly, you probably hear that a lot, but I approach it the same, if not more, because especially in 8-man on some teams, it's not necessarily that they just don't have enough good players, but they may have one all-star or something like that carries the team. And so that always make me kind of nervous, going into the games. That, and football is all about matchups. So just because they don't have a good record doesn't mean that they wouldn't match up well against your team, for example.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Because I know Coach Forrest would always like tell us like, no matter who it is, maybe it's the worst team or the best team, you have to like prepare the same way each time so you could be consistent. So, I mean, knowing that like a team might suck, I still like try to play and practice hard during the week so I won't slip up during the actual game.
Yeah, I remember my senior year, I think, or junior year, they don't have a team anymore, and you might know what I'm talking about, but they were I don't know who they were. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, they were. I know what you're talking about. They were Grace Baptist. They were Grace Baptist 2 years ago, and then last year they were Madisonville. But they were Grace Baptist 2 years ago.
Yeah, and they were supposed to be really bad, and this is when we were doing really well. And I remember the first quarter I came out, and they had it really fast. They kind of had the same style as us, but they ran it more with the quarterback. And they were supposed to be terrible. In the first quarter, I remember it was like we were only winning by like one touchdown or something, or it was tied. And so, I mean, that's just kind of what I was saying, like matchups, because I remember they were just really fast, and our line was slow.
Well, appreciate you guys doing this. Wes, Rio, we don't make it down to Florida very often, but Wes, we're coming over to Knoxville. I want to say it's like the first Saturday of October for Tennessee School for the Deaf game. So we'll have to hit you up and
for sure,
and meet up and maybe grab a bite. Maybe you can come to the game.
Yeah, for sure. I'll let y'all know.
Sounds good. All right. Well, I appreciate it, guys. Thank y'all so much for doing this.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for having me.
I had a blast talking to Rio and Wes. Of course, got to know Wes very well at the 2016 Extreme All-Star game. He was one of the quarterbacks that was up there. And then Rio, I think I played him. It would have been his sophomore year, so he wasn't really the starter, but we played up there. Webb was actually I only started 2 games my senior year, and Webb was the very first game of the year I started because of several suspensions. And it was kind of just to prove a point because a couple drives into the game, a couple series into the game, I was back to the sidelines and back to dancing the chicken dance. And then the other fun fact, the other start was up in Swanee, up at St. Andrews Swanee, and that was due to a few injuries. But anyways, I had a great time talking to those guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed the interview with them. I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank y'all so much for listening, and I hope that you guys will tune in to Extreme Radio this Sunday. Spencer is out. And I don't know what went into his head, but he asked me to step in and guest host. So I'm going to have Isaiah Austin alongside, and we're going to have some fun. Jamboree is next Saturday. Football is here. See ya!
And I want to say thanks for listening.